before, and I think that my last video was the last crit that I recorded in August of 2023. I'm going to be talking over this video, which is a recent small group ride on a Saturday just a week ago, and mostly teammates here on my team, Cheney, Windows, and Door. But anyway, the purpose of this video is to talk a little bit about what's coming up this year, and also a recap of the last racing season in brief. So, talking about what's coming up this year, of course, is the new crit season locally here in the Dallas area, and I'll actually be having a video, I hope, I've promised, it's planned, that I'll be interviewing Ryan Chrissy, who is the promoter for Turbovelo, i.e. the promoter of the crit scene here in the Dallas area, for the most part. Not entirely, not the only promoter, but I would argue the main promoter, i.e. does the Tuesday Night Crit. And he's going to have some exciting news about this upcoming crit season here in 2024. So I meant to do this recap video, a long time ago, but like a lot of things, it hasn't been a priority. If you watched my videos of the last season, you would see that I was in a much different role than usual if you've watched my older videos. So just to give a little bit of background, I was on a team called PAC, P-A-C-C. Actually, the rider here just in front of me is wearing a PAC jersey. Then, I stopped racing for a while. I didn't race during COVID. And I reached out to Ryan, and I was interested in being on the same team as he was, and I didn't know what his plans were. And he started this new rec team. So it's actually a professional team, professional track team, Cheney, Windows, and Door. But it also has a rec team component, or a recreational club component, i.e. I'm not on the professional team, I'm not on the UCI team. But this is the same team that is the #1 track team in the United States, and we'll be putting, I think, like 4 riders in the Olympics. And Ryan is intimately involved with that. I forget his exact title, I think racing director, and other hats that he wears in that organization. So anyway, make a long story short, he said, I have this new thing. We're going to have this local club component. You could join. I joined, and as it was, I was the only one who joined that first year, and I raced a couple of times, and I won the B race in my first week, and then the next week I won the Masters crit, and then I promptly on a training ride fell over at 5 miles per hour and hurt my wrist and couldn't ride a race again. And so that was that entire season. Fast forward to 2023, which was the last season, of course, and we had a few riders join, and if you've watched those videos, you'll see that we had a very cohesive, small team, but cohesive, smart, fun team where we were really working together as a team. So I guess the point of the recap here is for me to describe a transition from going from a low-structure team, which is something I've talked about, to a high-structure team. And what I mean by that is a low-structure team is where there are no roles, there's no hierarchy, it's informal, you can kind of do what you want. Hopefully people are organically making smart decisions together, but nobody goes into a particular crit with a plan, and often whatever plan there might be falls apart, and people are just going off schedule, doing their own thing. You never quite know what people are going to do on your team. That is a low structure team, which can be fine. I'm not criticizing that. It's different, right? So I'm not hemmed in, you've got to do this role, and if you're not, doing X, Y, Z, then you don't have a place on this team, and you feel hemmed in, and I can't do my own thing. Well, the problem is, on the flip side, if everyone can do their own thing, they're often going to do their own thing, and they don't really care about tactics or necessarily how the team does or whatever. Sometimes after a race, I'd ask what was that teammate doing? And it's like, oh, he just does his own thing. Why is our teammate chasing down the break that is favorable to us. Well, he just didn't like what he saw and he wanted to get, in on the action, that kind of thing. Doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen sometimes, and it's kind of frustrating. Anyway, so a high structure team is a team where there are clear goals. You may have a designated role. Things may be discussed in advance. There might be a whole team effort around one particular rider to ensure their placement. For example, if you're in a series and we have someone high placed in the series, we're going to be trying to maximize points for the guy on our team for that series. So a very, very different kind of mindset that goes into a high structure team. So 2023, I'm on a high structure team. Now, this is not the same thing as high stakes. High structure, high stakes are different things. This is high structure, low stakes. This is a weeknight crit. We don't have, thousands of dollars at stake or anything like that. It's just for the love of the sport and our competitive natures and trying to do the best we can. But we're trying to ensure that our team does well, represents well, gets as high place as possible in this series. Now, the hierarchy of such a team will work out over time based on who has legs, who has the ability, and how things develop. So as it turned out, going into this season, a new person joined our team, Andy, and Andy had a lot of success previously, and he's a strong rider, and he really came into the season as probably, arguably, I would say, I don't think my teammates would argue this, as the strongest rider on our team. And then we had other people, including some very experienced, 20 plus 30 years experience on our Masters team, racing at a very high level, amateur level, and sometimes higher than an amateur level, pro level, or something akin to domestic elite level. Guys on our team as well, the few of us, and we're coordinating and working together. What was my role? So, again, let me talk a little bit about my strengths and weaknesses as a crit racer. First off, this is a very short kind of crit that we're racing. We're competing in the Masters Crit 40 plus. Typically, the race is not longer than 35 minutes, about 30 minutes or so. So it's fast and furious action, and decisions come at you quickly. My personal strength as a rider, I would say, is more towards the sprinter end of things. I'm not a high FTP breakaway kind of guy. If I do get in a breakaway, there's a high chance that I might be the best sprinter in the breakaway, so that would be favorable to me if I'm in a breakaway. But I'm more of a sprinter type, and I'm also, I think, a very good 1 minute power type. So in other words, I can put in usually pretty good power towards the end of a crit. And not just for the last 200 meters, but, at this level. We're talking at this level, local Cat 3 Masters type level. So as it turned out through the course of the crit season, when it came to sprint finishes in the crit, it was my job to be the first person in the lead-out train and to try to take control of the group on the front and create a train that advantages our riders in the sprint. Now, people that are watching my channel are probably local riders, and maybe a few other people that aren't local, but they probably watch like NorCal Cycling and other kinds of race strategy kinds of videos. So you know that, and you've also watched Tour de France and other things, you know that in a sprint finish, they like to keep it fast. If you don't keep it fast, then someone will take a flyer and might go for a solo breakaway or so forth, and we don't want that to happen, if we're trying to control the sprint. And so somebody has to keep it fast, and you want it fast such that people who are in the train, in the group, cannot easily get good position if they don't have position already. So in other words, When I get to the front and I go, I'm hoping that I'm locking in our positions in the train such that no one can really get on, can go, another train can't match us, another rider can't get around us. They are locked in behind our guys. Ideally, if we're the front train, and if they want to get to the front, they need to form a new train and get up there. That's my job. My job is to go just fast enough to control it, and then at a certain point, go. I'm not giving away any trade secrets. This is known to everybody. The question is, can your team actually execute it? Do you have the guys, the energy, the mentality, the teamwork to execute it? And I think arguably we as a team did the best job of controlling sprints in our series last year. And so that was a lot of fun. Now, having said that, it is different, right? To go from I am the guy trying to win the sprint to I am the guy that watches the sprint happen in front of me because I am no longer in the sprint. I have peeled off and am in the back. Everyone has passed me with, like 200 meters to go or whatever, 300, 250, wherever it is that my speed is no longer sufficient to hold back the group and the next guy in our train goes. Very different to, finish 20th in the crit while initially being first, with 300 meters to go. It's a different mindset to go from I am helping to I am trying to win. And I would say there are pros and cons to that. I mean, when I think about the pros, number one, there's a little bit less pressure. I'm not saying having less pressure is necessarily a good thing, but there's less pressure to deliver the absolute result of winning. And there's a lot of factors that go into winning a sprint. It's not an easy thing to do, even if you're put in the right position. One of the complications of our sprint team last year would be that the main guy we are delivering might not be the best sprinter on the team. And so we're not trying to deliver points to him because he's the best sprinter. We're trying to deliver points for him because he is the most likely one to help us win the series. He's the one that's most likely to garner the greater number of points. Now, that could change. If Ryan, for example, is doing really well, we would sprint. The train would be for him, and so forth. It might change depending on the situation, how the series rolls out, and so forth. But so less pressure is one thing. I don't need to win if I don't. I have a different way of winning. My way of winning is doing a good job for my team. And just being involved in the sprint is not the only part, but, controlling brakes, other kinds of things that happen in the middle of the race, maybe rolling off the front to the advantage of my team, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of other ways of helping besides just the final sprint in a supporting role. But it's a different kind of mindset, and it does require some acceptance of ego reduction, of not defining your success via what your placement is or whether you have a picture to put on social media saying, I am on the podium. This was the first year in 2023 that I was never on the podium. Again, that's not something I'm complaining about. It's fine. I'm fine with it. Probably in terms of individual success, I think probably the highlight might have been winning the bunch sprint. One particular week where I was free to sprint for myself because we had guys up the road. And I did win the bunch sprint, not that it was that big of a deal or there was no placements involved in terms of podium. But that was kind of cool to measure myself against a few guys that were in the bunch sprint. But yeah, it's different. It's a different mindset. And what do I take away from that? Well, I would say that when you have guys that you really get along with, that you like, that you can root for, that you can be happy for their success, you can feel good about your contribution to their success, where they are grateful for your contribution, and the guys really gel well, like each other, it's a lot of fun. I would say it's more fun than the low structure, writing for yourself, and having some success in podiums and things like that. I would say that this in 2023 was a lot of fun. I probably would argue probably the most fun I've had. The season did have its problems for me. I started off the season with COVID, so I missed, I think, the first couple crits because of COVID. And I also had a bad crash in the A race. It's on my channel. That hampered my training for a time. And my overall fitness was not that great. Definitely not good going into the crit season. And really didn't develop in the way that I would have hoped for during the season for reasons that I don't entirely understand, but I think it was just interruptions in training and not training as much or training as hard. But anyway, who cares about all that? That's last year's business, and who cares whether I was faster. I did develop a little bit during the season. I didn't quite race my way into shape in the way that I expected. When the hot weather came, I just hit a brick wall. It was like my body did not adjust well to the heat. And that was surprising to me because I think of myself as somebody that usually does adjust well to the heat. But overall, we did really well, and we had a great time, and it was fun. So I think another thing that was fun is we had really good teams to compete against, and that sort of team against team dynamic is a lot of fun. Not just like the strongest guys are just competing against each other and everything else is a mishmash. We're actually, there's actual strategy and thinking and guys, with the wheels turning in their head as the race is developing. It's kind of like the difference between playing really crap basketball and really high-level basketball. High-level basketball, you make a cut, you're open, you'll get a pass. Low-level basketball, people are just hucking and chucking, and you don't bother cutting. You're never going to get a pass. Last year, I felt like the Masters Crit and the Tuesday Night Crit, with everyone involved, especially the top teams, was it felt like high-level smart racing. And that smartness is what contributes to the fun of it. Win or lose, it's so much more enjoyable when it's smart. And safe, for that matter. Now, I just said I did crash. I didn't crash in the Masters race. I crashed in the A race. And I crashed because people were doing dumb things on the front that weren't safe. And, so if you're watching this and you're planning to race, please race safely. And probably the first one of the people that's involved in that crash might be listening to this and say, I wasn't doing. Okay, we can argue about that some other time. But let's really try to focus on safety as well. Because this is fun, but let's not get hurt. It's no fun to get hurt. Anyway, I will have a video coming up, hopefully in the next week or so, where I'll be interviewing Ryan, talking about specific details of the new crit season. I think you'll be interested in that. He's got some things to share. And we'll get his perspective as a promoter of crits and races here in Texas. And I think that may be interesting to other people across the country who are promoters or interested in promoting or wondering how promoters operate, what they think about, and what can be successful, what is not. I think we can have some conversation in that regard as well. If you have things you would like for me to ask Ryan, please post comments below, and those questions will be considered as part of my interview of him coming up. So, wish you guys well in your riding and training. Stay safe on the road. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.